motorcycle around and entertain his students. He found entertaining was pleasurable. So he began entertaining at the theater company, which was Imagination Station, back in the early 90s. He did so well. He was the king in our first King and I. He played Harvey Mitchell in Randy's first musical, The Hero, and produced. And he went on to go to California and become an actor in California. And I know he's done some movies and some TV shows, I believe. And now he lives back in the Brazos Valley over in Huntsville. And he's going to come talk with you for a minute. Steve Larkin.
They gave me a microphone, and clearly I don't need it, right? I am an old school teacher, and some of you, I recognize what. Well, we are absolutely thrilled to be here, and holy cats pajamas, what a lineup for this interview. Just hearing, I don't know how to love him, from Jesus Christ Superstar makes me cry. It was unbelievable. As a matter of fact, I got to see Professional Touring Company when they came through in Austin. My buddy Randy Wilson, who toured with that production for a long, long time, took me over to see it. A friend of his, Paul Ainsley, was in it, and I remember sitting there. What theater was that, Randy?
It's the one downtown.
Yeah. I remember saying, so that's how the big boy is. But that, I digress, because Randy, would you come up here for a minute, please? Yeah, yes, please. Because really,
as long as you don't make me cry.
Well, it's too late. I want you guys.
So he doesn't cry. That's what's going to happen, I tell you.
I want to introduce you to the guy who changed my life. Okay. And I'm pleased that I was asked, Becky and I both were tickled to be asked to be here on the occasion of your 20th freaking year.
We don't say that word here.
Man, in California, it's okay. It's okay.
Risky.
Yeah. So, I don't know if any of you, raise your hand if you suffer from the same disease that I have, and it is called alligator mouth hummingbird butt. Which means that your alligator mouth constantly overwhelms your hummingbird butt. Or another way, your mouth writes checks that your butt can't cash. Years ago, I met Randy through our church, First Baptist Church in Bryan, and every year we had this big Christmas program. And I started out, I think, as Joseph. And then I went up the ranks to the Gold King, the Silver King, the Gold King, and then finally, I got to take the microphone to work it
and go up in the balcony, and I was the voice of God.
Randy one year was responsible for putting on a drama for the program. So during rehearsal, if you remember this, during rehearsal at Christmas time, I went up to Randy and I said, "So, Randy, what play are y'all doing this spring?" He said, we're going to do Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I said, "Oh, my Lord, I was born to play Big Daddy." Alligator mouth. About 3 months later, my phone rings and it's Randy. He said, "Hey, Steve, what are you doing Saturday?" I don't know. What do you need? He said, "Well, we're holding auditions for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof down in Navasota, and I want you to come down." I said, "Randy, I was just kidding. I'm not an actor." So I said, "Well, I've seen the movie, but let me get the play." And I read this book, and I realized that Big Daddy Pollock was a combination of the two most important men in my life. It's my grandfather and my uncle. So, on the day of the auditions, it takes about 24 minutes to get from my house to the theater. I bought a 6-pack of beer. And I drank 4 of them on the way to Navasota. He's like, he knows it's true. So I get in there, and Randy does his auditions different. They don't. I've done a lot of professional theater now, a lot of movies. You go into a cast, and it's just you and the casting director and the people. But no, not Randall. If you guys have ever auditioned for one of this play, you come in and everybody's. So I walked out, and he goes, "Steve Larkin, you're up." And I walked up to him, and I said, "Remember this?" I said, "Randy, what do I do?" And he said, and to this day, and I have worked with Mike Nichols, all the great directors, and he told me, "Go be this guy." And that's what I did, and that's what I have tried to do for the last 20 years. So that's how long I've been doing this now. So the first play I did was Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And I found at that point that not only did it change my life, you can change other people's lives. I'll tell you a real quick story. I don't ordinarily tell this in public, but I don't because I cry. My oldest son growing up, from the time he was 16 till he's about 19, bam, he and I were just like this. He went away to college, and things were kind of smoothing out a little bit. And this is my first play, and we had done this for a couple of weeks. And I knew my son was coming into town for the play from Austin. And there's a scene in the second act where Big Daddy and his son Brick get into this argument. And I don't know if it was because Jamie, I was in the audience, but I got so damn mad at Brick. Remember?
Okay.
I grabbed him, and I just started crying. And Todd Fraser, the young man who was playing Rick, he started crying. And I mean, he just into Act 2, and we go backstage. And always before everybody's, "Hey," and I go into my little spot, and I'm going, and Todd's over at his place going, and I mean, there's not a sound. So after the performance, my son comes up to me. He's 21 years old, and he comes up to me and he throws his arms around me, and he said, "Dad, I just want you to know how much I love you." And I've been looking for that high ever since. I go backstage, and there's Todd in his chair, and I looked at him and I said, "Brother, you okay?" And he said, I'm not sure. And I said, "Why?" And he said, "My dad was here tonight." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "For the first time in my life, my father told me he loved me." And at that point, I said, I have to do this. Now, the second play I did is one that you're doing again this year.
Don't turn around.
No. And it started this incredible love-hate relationship that I have with Stephen Sondheim. We did a little night music. And I don't read music, by the way, okay? I can sing, but I can't read music. By the way, I can't sing and dance. Actually, I can't dance at all. That's another story. There is a particular little number in here, in this play, where Frederick Egerman, my character, has to take his clothes off. And while he's taking his clothes off, you know, the sweet impossibility stumbles a lot of one.
Now he can do it.
I tried for however many weeks of rehearsal to do this, and so I went to Randy and I said, "Okay, here's what the night before or 2 nights before, we're either going to cut this number, or I think I can rap it. But I can't sing it and take my clothes off and do it. So, I just went, now, the sweet impossibilities tumble so strong. But it worked. Now, Stephen Sondheim is not real pleased with that, but I don't care. The next thing I'll let Becky talk about was Randall.
Oh, you forgot this part, right?
No, I didn't. Oh, well,
That's
that's
a 7-page.
there was there's a great song in the Little Night Music, Send in the Clowns. I just absolutely love it. And the girl, I won't say her name because this is kind of a gross little story, who played the lead opposite me. We'd send in the clowns. After she would finish singing, then we would kiss. You know, and my daughter got real upset to see her father mugging on stage. She said it was somebody else. It was probably some of the finest acting I've ever done to get in and really get with it, because every time when she would sing and open her mouth, she had these huge spit strings that connected her upper teeth to her lower teeth. And right after that, I got to go get some. Very difficult.
Oh,
She made me tell it.
God. I don't know what is looping up there, but one connection that Randy and I and Steve have together was our boxers. And so if you wonder where that ever started,
It was them.
It was
You ever
us.
been to a rehearsal with a boxer? Those are our.
That's why. And so there's a picture that will be running up there of the first one that Randy chose Zach.
Zakowski.
One of our puppies, and then about 2 years later, I guess, then Mamie came along, and another litter of our puppies. So I'm gonna let Steve. Well, I could tell up to Thanksgiving. Every
Whatever.
Thanksgiving, Randy would come out for Thanksgiving with our family and bring his dogs. But every time they came, their mama had to fight them to the ground, you know. So there is a good Thanksgiving story about Zach.
Well-
You know which one?
I think so.
Yeah, well.
Randy
Just
says,
me.
no, we
And
don't
me.
like.
Well, you gotta remember, by this time, Zach is more like a big sausage with little legs. You know, he's like this. And I have spent literally all night smoking turkeys and hams and in preparation for we'd have like 50 people there.
Now you know which one.
Oh,
And so Randy comes up with the dogs, and I have just put on clean clothes, my new only pair of ostrich boots I ever owned, new shirt and everything. And here comes Randy and the dogs. They have their obligatory fight with Babette. And then Randy and I and Zach go out onto the dock of my lake, my little pond there. We're standing there, and all of a sudden Zach just goes poof,
Jumps off.
and jumps in. Randy says, "Oh, that's okay.
That's okay.
He can swim." And Zach just kind of, and he touches bottom and bounces up again, and then it's just like a scene from Run Silent, Run Deep. Dive! Dive! And this time, Zach don't bounce. And I look at Randy, and so off I go to get his sausage dog.
He looked like a manatee going out.
It's not true.
Absolutely cannot swim a lick. I have to save him be dead that day.
All these plays are happening while we're affiliated with Imagination Station, and I was an assistant principal at Jane Long when we opened up. That was originally a junior high, and then two years later we converted to a middle school. And Randy came up one day to school. He said, "Is there any space that you have that we could use to practice?" So I cleared out a big closet for him, and it was a big closet, if you remember, right there off the office. And that's where the imagination, everything that Imagination Station owned was in that closet. And they would pull it out and do the rehearsals and then put it all back up. And I guess he used that.
I wasn't there then. That wasn't me.
Well, you called me.
Look at guys looking just like you.
Yeah. And then we came down, but then we went on to the place next to Gina's.
Well, Imagination Station was a theater company without a home.
That's what
And
basically.
we ended up at the little place next to Gina's, which is where I got my first exposure to Shakespeare when Randy foolishly cast me in the part of Prospero in The Tempest.
I'm going.
I remember.
Yeah.
Stephanie Miller was the Fiddler on the Roof.
Well, that one came, but I got sick, and Randy had to open The Tempest with the script and did an absolutely marvelous job. So, and I said at that point, I am not ever going to act again, ever.
And I said, good.
Yeah. And then came along this play called Oh Yeah, The King and I, starring Glenda Cole.
That's right. God bless you.
Y'all remember Glenda? Oh my God.
This play had no budget, I mean, we had no budget, we had no money.
We had no budget, right? Is
And
that correct?
so.
Zero. I'm not talking low, we're talking no. None.
Glenda's scrounged fabric, she scrounged paint, and then we had this team of moms that came in and sewed these beautiful costumes. She painted the floor black. It's really one of the prettiest productions I think we ever did. And a beautiful medallion in the middle of the floor,
Amazing
red
thing.
and gold, and all that was all Glenda's doing.
And it was a great space because the audience, I mean, you're on the same level as the audience. It's like theater in the round. We went from that to doing what I think is probably the greatest musical ever written,
Ever.
Fiddler on the Roof.
What was that rolling bed you were on?
I know, yeah.
Well, the other,
And Stephanie Miller.
oh my God. I have a great Stephanie Miller joke to the story, but Becky won't let me tell it. But just let me say that it had to do with the bed.
You remember?
It was, how in the world, do you remember the horse cart
Oh, yeah.
that we pulled, and it fell apart every performance?
We borrowed it from Consolidated.
Right, and so Tevye would end up dragging it.
But there's Randy making this tiny little space, and suddenly you've got the whole, the immigration of the Russian peasants leaving Russia, and he kind of just track around the whole floor very slowly, and square, and you just it just all was moving and beautiful.
This
It
is
was
also
so incredible.
marked the dramatic debut of my best friend, and some of you guys may know him, Jess Burdick. Jess was instrumental in helping us get this place.
Jess got this place.
Yes. And I taught Jess into playing the colonel. And he did a marvelous job. He borrowed some Aggie boots, and I mean, this guy looked like a Russian colonel. There's just a great scene where it's just Jess and I, and where Tevye's out there, and he comes to congratulate Tevye on his impending marriage to his daughter's marriage. Well, Jess's mom and dad were in the audience that night, and Jess's dad was Red Burdick. Many of you may know or knew Red. Was a legend in this town. And when Jess walked out on stage for our scene, he caught his sight of his father in the corner of his eye. And he walked out on stage, and I thought, oh, hell. He doesn't know where he is. And he's supposed to come out and congratulate me, and Jess is just standing there, and so Tevye says, well, good evening, Your Honor. And Jess looks at me and goes, uh-huh. And I said, well, Your Honor, I suppose that you'd like to congratulate me on my daughter's wedding. And he goes, uh-huh. I did the whole scene by myself. Well, Your Honor, I suppose you need to go now. Okay. Probably.
And we still had Oliver over at that venue, all those kids, oh my goodness.
We had 34
30,
orphans.
yeah, 30 orphans.
Randy
Uh,
always has all these children.
But then we
You
got.
pull the parents in.
Yeah.
But then we got the theater, and our first what's now the green room. Anyway, there was a production of Lear that Randy did, and the most imaginative production you could ever
Imagine
imagine.
Shakespeare meets Mad Max Beyond Thunder. I am King Lear in black motorcycle. I would have ridden my Harley up the stage, but it wouldn't fit. Black leather boots, a long black cape, huge black shoulder pads with buzzard feathers. In the part where Gloucester gets his eye plucked out, we did it with a portable electric drill.
It was stunning.
Damn it, it was. And at that time, I absolutely fell in love with Shakespeare. I've done many plays since in LA, and I want to thank you for that. As painful as it was, I remember one time I told Randy, I said, if we were a professional theater company, because we did it start to finish in 4 weeks, and Lear never shuts up. And I said, Randy, if we were a professional theater company, how long would we rehearse? And he said, oh my gosh, you'd have the book in your hand for 6 weeks. I said, what the heck? We did this in 4 weeks. Why? He said, you're amateurs. You didn't know you could.
And then at this point, along the way, actually, I think My Fair Lady came next. I accompanied on all these
She
things.
did every go.
Yeah, and at that time, we had it up in the sound booth. Remember, we put the whole keyboard up in the sound booth, and the idea was that I could see better and we could work it out like that. So Steve is Alfred P. Doolittle coming across the stage, and all the men are holding him up as he's singing "I'm Getting Married in the Morning," and all the electricity goes off.
David was in that.
That's right. That's right.
And he just kept singing, and it's totally dark. And
I just hope they didn't throw me off.
finally, the lights came on. Then one other thing I remembered, we were doing Sound of Music at back over at Gina's, and Sarah had a solo, the little girl, and
Sarah Hannah.
yes, and I think I accidentally hit the off and on button right in the middle of her little solo, and we thought it was a malfunction. So Randy's scrambling, I'm scrambling, we're trying to find everything, and bless her heart, she just kept singing. But it was actually me. I did.
All right, we're going down a little less. Okay, then one other.
Gotta do
Okay.
the part of the day. No. Oh, I know what you're gonna do.
Okay. So Randy calls me, says, Steve, my dear friend Steve, since I'm now part of your family, so we are going to do a special one-night only performance of a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. Oh, cool, that's great, I've seen it, it's hilarious. You know, he said, I'd like you to play the part of Sulace. Yeah, the audience is going to be in togas and everything. And he said, I said, okay, great. Well, I said, look, I'll go rent the video, and yeah, okay, cool. So I go home, it's in the afternoon, and he knows. And I put it in, and they're rolling the credits, and it says, music and lyrics by Steven Sondheim.
He called him.
I called him, right, tick, 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 and it rings, and on the other end, I hear this. Randy! No, sorry, kids. I gotta say, it's one of the few plays that I've ever done, other than Cat, that I would love to do again. Because it's absolutely fabulous.
So
Um,
anything.
I just wanna say,
The Heart of the Valley.
you know, the Heart of the Valley
Again, what?
took on a life of its own. I ended up opening up schools in BISD dressed as Harvey Mitchell. It was awesome. I don't know, and I think you know, and if you don't, let me tell you how unbelievably lucky we are to have this guy in our community. some of the best performances I have ever seen in my life have been right here on this stage. You heard the voices tonight. And I just want to, again,
Well, and the influence that Randy and as you all know, I mean, the troop of talent that he sends out then into the world has just been phenomenal.
so sum this up. In 2000, you know, I know she's going like this. There you go. Sorry, you asked me. Yeah. You knew.
I didn't know.
Yeah, right. 2001, I came home from school one day at Bryan High, and Becky says, "How'd your day go?" And I said, "Great, I quit." She said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to sit on the dock and I'm going to drink beer full time." And she said, "Well, why don't we go to Los Angeles?" And I said, "Why?" Makes no sense. She said, "Let's see if somebody will pay you to be an actor." And I told her, "Don't be ridiculous. They don't pay high school principals from Texas to go to Hollywood and be an actor." And she looked at me and said, and I quote, "What's the matter? You scared?" You ruined my life!
Not so glad.
You saved me.
So surprised what he got. They were crazy to ask him Sunday night. He's also a preacher. So, sermon time.
The church of the eternal feel good.